name that will be used for redirecting the visitor to the first landing page. So essentially we only have to support one host name. So we set this one as our primary domain and set the isLanding to true. The auto filter is set to true by default. It is actually something that I added long time ago, and you do not have to really worry about it. But in previous versions of Evil Jinx, the Evil Jinx would not automatically replace the URLs in the HTML content and in the JavaScript files whenever to redirect to the phishing domains. So you had to replace every single URL that was found in every single HTML file by yourself. And if you forgot about one, then you probably made the web browser lose the proxy session because one of the URLs was not replaced properly, and it would redirect it to the legitimate website, and the reverse proxy session was lost. It was very frustrating before I added that, and I'm glad I eventually did, because it makes the whole process much easier and straightforward. So we can leave that as is. The sub filters for now we will leave out, so we can just comment it out with the hash character. And this is where we have the credentials. So the credentials actually, as we saw in the payload tab, we can also see how they look like in the source. So we can see that the parameter that is being sent in the HTTP post request, the name of the first parameter is email and the second is password. And this is essentially the only values that we need, the only keys that we need to focus on. So when we look at the fishlet, we can define that for the username, the key was email. And in the search parameter, we put in the regular expression for the value. So if we have some complex values that we come across in the future, which will involve like searching through the value to like pick exactly what we need, where the email value or the password resides, then we will need to create some smart regular expression. But in this scenario, and in most scenarios that we will come across, you can just put in the regular expression that will just match any data that is available. So it's very important to use the quotes, because you can type in something here before that and it will first look for this thing and then grab as a value everything that is put in after this name. So we will just use it as it is right now. The type should be left to post, because later we will learn that there are different ways of also for the websites to send data in HTTP requests to the website. And with the password, it's same thing. So for the password, we found out that the name of the key was password, and we also search for the whole value, which you can see like the whole value is exactly what we are looking for. And that's basically it for the credentials. So we can already prepare the login section, I believe, because we know that we are using the one and only host name, which is basically the akira.lab.eviljinx.com. So this will be the domain that is used as a landing page. And now we can specify what is the name of what is the path for the login for the login screen that the user is where the user has to navigate to be presented with the login page. So it can, for different websites, it can be different. It can be /login, it can be /sign-in. It all depends essentially on the website. But in our scenario, it was actually, the path was just blank. It just can be just a simple slash. So we do not have to actually type in anything more than just a normal slash. Now when we save it, we can analyze the cookies. So for the cookies, let's follow the whole login process that we encountered. So first, the login was sent with the email and the password, and as a response, we received some unspecified data, which probably just told the browser that there is multi-factor authentication enabled for this account. So it will not yet send the authentication token, but will prompt the user to enter their multi-factor authentication to make sure that they are the people who own the account through second factor authentication. So here you can see there was another request made to TOTP path, which, as we can assume, contained the multi-factor authentication code, and we can see that the code is here, is being sent, was sent in this HTTP request with this ticket ID that was previously retrieved from the previous, as a response to the previous HTTP request. And then once the response was, so we can also check in the headers tab what was the response from the server. And the response, actually, you can see that the status code was 200, which means that whatever the user entered, the server accepted. It wasn't like an error code that would say forbidden access or bad request or whatever. It was just 200, which means green light, everything is fine. And the response was empty. And in the cookies tab, we see that the request cookies were just some mode, the lab name, but the response cookies where there was a cookie with the key of a token and the specific value. So this looks like our session token. And this is essentially what we will be trying to capture. Because if we capture this token with this value, we basically beat the multi-factor authentication. We can just grab this token value and inject it into our own web browser and have full control of the account. Just to make sure, we will also click edit this cookie extension, the icon, and you can see all of the cookies that are being set for this website. So here you can see that there is actually a cookie named token set for this domain with this value. When we actually refresh the website, we can see that we are logged in. Now when we open edit this cookie extension and we check the token cookie and we delete it from the web browser by clicking the trash can that says delete cookie. And now when we try to refresh, we can see that we got logged out. So it's like a very high chance that this cookie was responsible for authenticating us as the user for this website. So now we can just take this information and see what was. Let me just log back in quickly. And let's analyze again this cookie. So the name, the key name was token. That was the value, and the domain was this one. So let's copy the domain value from this cookie and put it into the domain of the auth tokens. So in this section of the fishlet file, you will have the list, the array, the list of all of the cookies that we want to capture, because sometimes websites may contain several cookies that actually form a single authentication identifier. So in our scenario in the lab, it's just one cookie, but for different websites, it may be several of them. And it is important to capture all of them at once, essentially, because only the combination of them and only capturing them all as a group will provide us with access to the account. So in the keys parameter, we enter that we want the first cookie to be captured will be with the key name of token. If we had any other cookies that we wanted to capture, we can specify them after a comma. So after a comma, we can present it would be whatever the name of the other cookie that we want to capture, and EvilJinx will make sure to look after all of them. And but in our situation, we will only be looking for the token cookie. Now we can save the fishlet. We will save the fishlet, and we will now try to fish ourselves in the next lesson. So in this lesson, we will try to fish ourselves using the fishlet we have just created. So to start, open EvilJinx, and we see that EvilJinx is actually not properly configured right now. So you can see here in these two lines that EvilJinx wants the domain to be set properly and also the server IP. So the domain is what you need to set up as our main phishing domain. Normally, it doesn't matter what we pick right now because we are just doing tests on localhost, but for remote deployments, you will want to register a new domain and set it up with the domain that you just registered in any of the domain hosting providers. So we will pick a domain fake.com for our testing purposes. So in order to set it up, I can remind you as well how to use the help prompt. So when we type in help space config, you will see how we can set up the configuration of EvilJinx. And here we say that here we see that we have the config domain command that will set up our main base domain for EvilJinx. So when we do it, we type in config domain fake.com. And that's it. Next thing, we need to set up the IP of our server. Normally, you would pick the IP, the remote IP, the dedicated IP of your VPS or wherever you'll have EvilJinx installed on the remote host. But for the testing purposes and for testing on the local machine, we will pick the local host IP. So what we do is type in config IP, and also interesting thing to remember, use the autocomplete feature of EvilJinx. So for example, when I type in C and press tab, you can see that it will list all of the commands that are actually starting with C character. But when there is just one available and you press just tab, it will autocomplete to this command.